Whenever people think of tics, they often think of Tourette syndrome. I just want to clarify that I don't have Tourette syndrome, or at least I've never been diagnosed with such, and that this video is going to be about something similar but a little bit different, which are anxiety tics. Now, I don't know if anything I'm going to say even sounds like something normal. I don't think anything I've been through is normal, but I'm just going to talk about my experience, and maybe there's someone in the audience who may have gone through something similar and can maybe relate to some of the stuff I've been saying. So one of the reasons why I don't think my experience was even normal to begin with is because I have a big idea of when this started and why it started. Now, before we go into like the meat and potatoes of the video, well, first of all, hello, I am Sophie's Dad Rap, and second of all, I need to explain to you what anxiety tics are. Now, anxiety tics are not a diagnosis. If anything, they could be a symptom of an anxiety disorder such as generalized anxiety. I've never really been diagnosed with that. I just know that I have anxiety tics, and I kind of have an idea of how they came to be. This is also why I don't think my anxiety tics are that normal, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Anxiety tics and overall tics are movements that are not voluntary. They are involuntary movements that happen specifically due to stress. Unlike Tourette syndrome, which has tics that can happen at any moment, it's a neurological thing, it's a condition. Anxiety tics are specifically caused due to stress. For example, panic attacks or work overload, those kind of things can trigger a tic. And sometimes I have tic attacks and it's very bad. Some of the movements include neck moving, like neck jerking, I don't know how to say it, a blinking, some vocal stims. It's a lot of things, but if you want to get the general idea of what it is, it's kind of like that. Now, why I say that I don't think that mine are even normal to begin with is because I kind of have a very clear idea of when they started and perhaps why they started. I don't really like to talk about this event, mostly because it was extremely traumatic and I still don't feel like I'm ready to talk about it. But as a general idea, I was forced to be at a place where they were supposed to take care of me, but instead they gave me supposed medication that was supposed to help me, except that they didn't really care to check on my background, they didn't really care to do anything, and essentially they just overdosed me with drugs that would essentially just calm my nerves down. One of these drugs that I was investigating it with like a friend and my husband is a drug that, if it truly is what I think it is, then it leaves permanent damage on the nervous system of my body. Now, this would also explain why I have a resistance to anesthesia, for example. I need about double or even 3 times the amount of anesthesia as normal for me to work and to not feel my body numb. You can only imagine how bad it has been with like dentists and stuff. So, yeah. I did start to have a lot of stuff after that entire incident. It was horrible. It was a very traumatic thing, and you know, I was against my will there. So sometimes I call it a kidnapping. Sometimes I think that I'm exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating when I say that that was one of the most traumatic events in my life. The thing is, due to the amount of drugs they refused to tell me what they were giving me. Like I didn't even know what they were giving me. They were just giving me stuff and then refusing to tell me what they were giving me. So they just mixed a bunch of shit, then see how I reacted to that. And between all the shit that they were giving me, it's very likely that something happened in my neurological system or my nervous system. Because after that event, well, first of all, I was so traumatized. I just had to fake I was alright all the time, or else. But the time that I actually had to be on my own, like specifically at school, this started when I was at school. My body started to make movements that I did not want it to make, specifically neck movements. So it looks like I don't know. It kind of just looks like my head is bopping around. And obviously, I don't want it to do that. I remember that even my teacher kind of got to make fun of me of that. He said something like, "Oh, what are we doing? Are we like dancing with the head or something?" And I just started to cry because I didn't know what was happening. I was really scared, and I kind of felt humiliated because I couldn't control my head movement, and I didn't even know why that had started back in the day. Now that I have a little bit more of an understanding of what I went through in my past, I blame this event in particular for starting this anxiety movement, but I don't know. When it comes to tics, that was the first time that I really, really started living them, and I thought that it would be like a one-time thing, but then it started to happen again and again and again, and it was just horrible. Now, unlike Tourette syndrome, which is like the closest thing I can find that is like related to this. In the case of Tourette syndrome, people can't really control when those tics happen. In my case, I cannot control it either. However, in the case of Tourette syndrome, it can just happen at any moment. Where in anxiety tics, it needs to be specifically triggered by stress. If there's no stress, it's very likely you won't have a tic. This means that at different moments in my life, I've been having days, weeks, even months without any kind of tic happening to me. That's because I felt more relaxed those months. Now, in my case, it's not only because of mental stress, like I've seen online that it happens, but in my case, it's also physical stress. For example, if I do a lot of exercise or I move something really, really heavy, I may have tics as a response from my body that my body's tired, my body is stressed. If this is not the only kind of reaction my body has to stress, for example. By the way, the biggest sign that I'm stressed outside of my tics is that physically my arms change color. I don't know how to explain this, but my arms have like weird patches of skin that kind of look more greenish or yellow whenever I'm stressed out. A lot of people have asked me if I'm food depraved or something, but no, it's just because I'm stressed and my body shows this through my arms specifically. Starts by the hand and just starts going up. I don't know if this happens to my legs too. I've never really noticed if they happen with my legs or not, but I know by a fact that it happens with my arms, and that's a thing that I've dealt with. The color changing is something that I've dealt with pretty much the entirety of my life, but the tics, I have only dealt with them since I was 16, if I remember correctly. In the case, my arms have always been a little bit weird. Like, they always have these like red dots ever since I was born. I don't know why I have red dots on my hand. But I know that if my hands start to stop being skin color and start having these like weird patches of green, blue, and yellow, and it kind of looks like my skin is dying, then it's probably because I'm either mentally or physically stressed. And after some time that I'm under this stress, after some time my arms start to look extremely stressed out, it's very likely that tics will begin. It doesn't happen always, but it is a very common double symptom that I get because of stress. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just how I've been living it. So yeah, I do have weird movements. For example, I have a lot of problems when it comes to walking. I don't know why, but people around me always say that I walk weird and that I have weird movements, and I don't know why. I know that some of those movements that I mentioned are specifically anxiety tics. I don't know how to stop them. Sometimes I can stop a tic, It's not really stopping it, but because the tics are specifically made from stress, are specifically a result of stress, I can sometimes just breathe in, breathe out, and try to force my body to stay put, just tensing my own muscles to force them to be stay put. I don't know how to explain it, I'm sorry. It kind of sucked, since to this day, My original family, the one that is not with my husband, they still don't believe that I ever suffer anxiety tics, and they believe that I was faking the movements for attention, which is like a horrible fucking thing to say, but that's kind of where I grew up. So yeah, you can't really do much about it. So you can only guess that I had to either move my hands under the table or move my feet under the table whenever we were eating lunch together, just so I could fake that I was not having any kind of anxiety by just being there. It really sucks, but at least it taught me a little bit of how to control it, or at least forced to control it. The only problem about this is that I cannot do this constantly, because every time that I fake not having these tics, the moment I'm alone and nobody's watching at me, and therefore nobody can judge me, the tics come back and they're extremely aggressive. Like, they hurt me physically just because the movement is so erratic that it hurts. Like, it moves so much that it hurts. It genuinely hurts. That is also one of the reasons why I don't like to show my face online. It's not like I have never done something online with my face, but I prefer VTuber models because in case some movement happens, usually the camera either doesn't track it, or I can just say, hey, it was just a camera thing, In the case of my specific tics, I have a couple of them. Whenever I remember something very embarrassing, or I have like a memory of something I really hate, I tend to give a little scream, like ha, like kind of like that. It's not exactly a scream; it's just like a weird sound. I don't know. Those are like all my vocal tics. I don't know if my anxiety laughter counts. Whenever I'm very stressed or having like a panic attack, I have a tendency to laugh. It freaks people out, so I only allow myself to have this like mental breakdown whenever I'm alone or home with my husband. But yeah, those like small breakdowns that I have, I can't really control them. On one end, I'm like, at one moment, I'm just standing, barely holding everything up, and at the very next moment that I know, I'm just on the floor laughing, and nobody really understands what's going on with me. I wish I could say I can control those things, but sometimes I can't, and overall it's just because of stress. Surprisingly, every time that happens, I kind of feel a little bit more relaxed, so I'm adding it here because it may be related. Every time I have like one of these tics, it feels like I'm letting something go. I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of feels like something in my body is being freed. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know if that sounds weird, but it just feels like something that was trapped is free, and I feel my body ironically tensing up. I don't know if that even means anything. It just calms down from being so tensed up. It doesn't fully calm down, but it calms down enough. Now, ever since I live with my husband, these tics have been becoming less and less frequent. In fact, a lot of the things that happened to me because I was stressed out have been slowly disappearing. They're never really gone. I think there'll be something that stays with me forever, but they've been less extreme, I guess. So a little bit more manageable, except when, I'm in an extreme panic attack situation. In those ones, I can't really do much. When it comes to like physical tics, while the neck tic, it's one of the ones that I hate the most just because of how visible it is. That's not the most common tic. The most common tic occurs around in my stomach, a little bit higher up. I don't know how to explain it. Like, just above where your belly begins, so right under where the lungs would be, a little bit under there. It just feels like something is contracting and stretching, and it just makes me move almost like a spasm. I don't know how to explain it. I just move like, I guess, a fetus. I don't know. Just contract and retract. And I often have to lay down on a bed and then it calms down a little bit. That's like the first sign I have that something's happening. There are other things that can start it though. For example, I do have some hand movement. It often just means that I'm opening and closing my hand a lot. So it kind of looks like my hand is palpitating, like it has a heart that it's like touching because of just how much it's palpitating. Then it comes like the whole arm movement, like around the shoulder, I think. Yeah, around the shoulder. So it moves around the shoulder. And then I have other slight movements like slight leg twitches, or even sometimes just making like a face for a moment, then it just comes down. It just feels like my entire face is contracting, then it's just relaxing. Those are about the tics I have. Most of them are painful, so they kind of sucked. I was never really treated for any of these things. I went for help, and the same people that were supposed to take care of me were the same people that did this to me. So, that kind of sucks. That totally didn't ruin any kind of trust I had in the people that were supposed to take care of me. No, not at all. Okay, but yeah. The best way that I've had to deal with these things have just tried to be as alone as I can so I can freely have the tic, or try to force myself to calm down. Forcing myself to calm down never works, but it only works for when other people are watching, and whenever someone is watching me, they make questions, they get curious about me, and honestly I just don't want to answer. This shit that I'm dealing with is already hurtful enough. I don't want someone else to be on my nose about it, So yeah, that sucks. When it comes to other people, most people don't really know what's wrong with me, and they will rather just label me as someone insane or someone with no kind of fixing. They label me as something broken, something unfixable, and something unlovable. That's what most people have labeled me as in my life, which it's kind of funny considering I got married way before any of them would, but fuck them. They were wrong about me being unlovable. Now I have a husband and a child. And a cat that loves me. So, yeah. They were wrong. They were always wrong. But yeah, living with this has been kind of hell, especially when it comes to other people. I would rather be alone than be with people that are going to judge me or just make so many questions about it when I clearly don't want to talk about it. They just say, oh, but just calm down. I cannot calm down. If I was able to calm down, I would not be on this very stage. Thank you very much for literally telling me what I want to do, but I can't. Then they get mad at me because they cannot fix me. So, that's kind of fucked up. But yeah, overall, I would rather just not be with people, especially because everyone judges me because of how I look, specifically because my movements are weird. Ever since I started to have this condition, like people have always told me that I walk weird, that I express myself weird, that I move my hands too much. Most of it was because of the autism, but ever since I got this, my movements have been a lot worse. I don't know if I'm getting actively worse because of like this. But I don't know, I look erratic to other people, but it's not something I can control, I just want to be someone normal, but I guess that was denied and taken away by people before I could even know I was normal, so kind of sucks, but I guess I just gotta live with that. I don't think there's like a solution to this. I've already been too many years into this, so it's not like you can just tell my brain to fix itself. I've been trying to, it doesn't work. But luckily, I have found someone, my dear husband, who knows that I don't do these kinds of stuff on purpose. He knows that it's not my fault, and that already means a lot to me. Even if the entire world treats me like shit just because I cannot be normal, at least I have someone at home that thinks it's not my fault. So, yeah. He also thinks I'm normal. My husband constantly tells me that I'm normal, and that being normal has nothing to do with just being a little different. But I don't know. Sometimes I really wish these kinds of things didn't happen, and that it didn't hurt so much. But a lot of the times, I prefer to just let them happen. Luckily, my husband does know how to treat me. At first, he didn't know how to treat me. When we first met, he was very panicked when he first saw me having these reactions to stress. But nowadays, he knows that the best way to calm me down is to be gentle, lay me down on a bed, be with me so I don't feel abandoned. He often just lays right beside me. I always apologize to him because I end up hitting him on accident. Like, I cannot really control where my hand moves, and sometimes I end up hitting him on accident. I apologize. He says it's alright. He always speaks to me with the softest voice ever. And he just gently hugs me. He leaves me enough room so I can move freely, and doesn't really try to calm my tics down. In fact, he just lets them happen and just tells me that I'm a good person. I just start to vent. I just get out that, I just wished I could be normal. And, he just listens and he's just there. And after some time, it just calms down on its own. So, After that, he just does some playful stuff and I feel a little better. So, he's just a perfect husband. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder what did I do to get such a perfect husband. But hey, I don't know. I wish the world was a little bit more understanding, but at the very least I have someone who understands here. So that's good, right? That's about it for now. Hope to see you in the next video, and that's it. Remember to drink water, stay healthy, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.